All right, welcome back, everybody. Live at Drew's house, another edition. Hope everybody is doing okay out there as we roll through September. I got the winter hat back. First show with the winter hat. It's like a fall cap, you know? I kind of like that, as you people know. Anyway, I'm going to go right to my first guest here. We have a return guest, which I always like. Chris Porter joins us. Hello, Chris.
Hello, Drew. Thanks for having me. Good to be back.
Yeah, well, it's good to have you back. I guess it's been, I want to say it feels like yesterday when we last talked, but when we last talked, we were in the heart of the pandemic. You're kind of the festival producing extraordinaire, I'm going to call you. Let's go with that. And of course, you have the big Town in the City festival in this neck of the woods. And well, let's start there. But I want to talk general stuff, but let's start there. It's not exactly great news, but it's not horrible news, right? Tell us what the deal is.
Yeah, well, I mean, when we last talked, I was talking about, how we couldn't do it, obviously, like everything was getting, things were locked down, shut down, and everything was getting canceled and pushed to the following year. So we did a kind of a little stream thing there back in 2020. But, we're all about having a live event, of course, and bringing people together in the same room or rooms or parks or what have you. And so it seemed likely that for October of 2021, we'd be able to present the Town and the City Festival as we had planned. As a matter of fact, I was, for a while, wasn't sure, and I just kind of rolled the dice and went ahead and booked it because it seemed like, things were going on the right track. We had that sort of 6-week, 7-week tease of normalcy, relative normalcy. And so it's like everything's, moving forward. But, thanks largely on the whole Delta variant sort of situation, among other things, and just, general perception, we were finding, we were running into a lot of roadblocks, which I'll mention in a moment, to the point where it didn't feel like we had to outright cancel it and just forget it. We'll just do this in 2022, as many other events have done. But we've postponed it we've actually taken 99% of the lineup and literally lifted it from the October 22nd, 23rd weekend and moved it to April 8 and 9 of 2022. So kind of moved it ahead 6 months, hedging our bets that maybe we can be in more normalcy at that point, and put together a good experience for both our patrons and our performers, and in a good setting. Because one thing is, for those that don't know, this festival is all indoors. If it was an outdoor festival, it might not have made that decision. We might have just moved forward. But being an indoor venue, sort of venue hopping experience, we utilized about 12 different venues. There, and even though
we should also say in Lowell as well. I don't think sometimes I assume people know that, but not everybody knows that, I guess. That's my bad. But yeah, in
Thank
Lowell.
you. Yes, no, thank you. Yes, the Town and the City Festival in Lowell. This year, or this next one, is the third one that we produced. We had one in 2018 and one in 2019. The amount of venues we utilized kind of varies from year to year, but we had about 12 that were participating this year. Different styles of acts and things, and we have some big, notable artists like Robin Hitchcock, Tanya Donnelly, John Langford, Aaron Perino, was a lot of different bands, like the Sheila Divine, among others. He has a new band called Aaron and the Lord, Adam Ezra Group, Screaming Females, among others, and then a lot of notable local acts. So, for a while we weren't sure what we were going to be able to produce, but then all of a sudden we were getting like a lot of support from sponsors and grants and things like that. And all of a sudden, and a lot of people were really excited about it. Once we took care, announced the lineup, we had more 2-day passes sold in our first month than we had the whole time for the previous years. So, I mean, it was really going quite well. But then, and even though, in the New England states, arguably the COVID situation is mellower than it is in most of the other parts of the country, there is a large skittishness about going into indoor shows. And we were seeing, and I know other fellow promoters were seeing this, and venues where we're seeing indoor ticket sales just grinding to a halt. We're hearing anecdotes of large shows, say, having something like 20 to 30% no shows. Like these are people even bought tickets and they didn't show up to the show. I was running into situations where, while most of the acts are based in New England, we do have some touring acts, and they weren't so sure if they were going to move forward with their tours or not. And then also, obviously I care about the safety of everyone too. Of course, that plays into it. People working on the festival as well as playing it and going. So that's thrown into the whole situation. And then also the experience. It maybe by April, if we're in the same situation, God help us if we are, but if we are, I think everybody's going to be used to, okay, you wear a mask and here's your vax card and everything, and you move forward. But at that point, I had to make the decision in early August. I wanted to make the decision earlier. It was taking a little bit of a chance, because I thought, well, I could wait and see how things are in September. But I really wanted to be sensitive of everybody else's schedules, all the patrons, everybody who works on it, all of the performers. So we made, kind of a gut level decision of like, let's not nix this entirely, but let's move it. It's kind of funny, and it's a parallel story. Many months ago, my colleagues and I were sort of, we riff on a lot of ideas, and we were also sometimes thinking to ourselves, is this this late October, is this the right time we should do it? Should we be doing this in the spring? I wonder. Well, here's our forced experiment to see if the spring is better anyway. But anyway, so those are all, those thoughts and many others kind of just bubbled up to the point where we're like, we gotta make a hard decision here, but make a decision to move it to a later date. It would have been hard to keep it where it was, and it would have been hard to move it, but it was a little less hard to move it.
I understand all that. What's the you guys bring some really good artists to Lowell. I know you take a lot of pride in that. I imagine you make it sound, I'm not going to say you make it sound easy, but you make it sound easier even than I think it is to get all those artists rescheduled and back on a bill for another year. It can't be. I mean, all these artists are doing different things. I mean, that can't be an easy task. Yeah,
no, it's not. And the discussion had to start with some of our notable touring acts, like Tanya Donnelly and Robin Hitchcock. It was like, okay, well, what weekends work for you guys? And good job.
A quick pause for the dogs. We were just talking about the dog Cashmere walks by. It's my neighbor's dog. My dogs love Cashmere, so every time that happens, very excitement. But continue your thought on the artist rescheduling. Sorry, Chris Porter.
Yeah. So I had to. It's okay. So I had to see. Okay, well, what weekend works for you guys? I was like, can we move this to April, May? And without getting into all the details, yes, that was difficult. That was a little, very stressful. I had a very stressful week that week of like, who can move and where can we move it? And we were originally thinking the last weekend of April, but then some other communication came back and was like, no, we can't do that weekend and whatever. And we've just been kind of going back and forth. And there's actually a small handful that are still sorting out the schedule, even though we still have them on the lineup listed. I mean, there may be some people are dropping off, hopefully minimally, if at all. But I was very amazed that everybody was like, yeah, we get it. I think the vast majority were thinking we were making the right decision, which I was relieved about. And they were like, okay, yeah, we're available, or if we're available, but we're not available on that particular day. For instance, Adam Ezra Group was scheduled to play Saturday, on the Saturday in that October date, but it has to be the Friday in this April date. So there was a little bit of that where a couple of acts had to flip the day of the week they're playing. But for the most part, it was amazing. Yeah, it was like kind of like taking like a big pile of something and hoping not one little bit like drops on the floor as you're moving it over here. That's the analogy I could give to this. But it worked out.
It must be infuriating though, because I mean, I know you're a down-to-earth guy, so you know that there's a lot of other people with bigger problems in the world. I get that, but through this pandemic, I mean, the whole goal of a festival organizer is to get these big acts, put it all together, and like try to put this greatest lineup possible together. You finally feel like you're doing that. You got something good set, and then it's like, oh, it's not going to happen. It must just be like the most gut-wrenching, devastating feeling.
Yeah, and it can be. Well, especially, because you put all that work to it together on it. But, there was going to be so much anxiety. In a way, it was a little bit of a relief, though, at least knowing ahead of time what we could do or what we, or what we wouldn't do. This gives us a little bit, I try to look at the positive in this way more than the negative. Yeah, it was a drag to move it, but this gives us more organizing time. This gives us more promotion time. We're kind of like in a little bit of a lull right now, but we'll probably start the promo machine back up again in late October. And, and we'll just give ourselves a little bit more time to prepare and get people psyched up for it. Get all of the different venues on the same page of moving forward, depending on if there were any protocols by that point. This was because at the time, it was all so many gray areas, and different venues had different opinions of what to do, or they weren't sure, and there was just such uncertainty in August, and even till up through now. I mean, it's still there. So outdoor shows, maybe not quite as bad. People have a comfort zone on that, fortunately. But for the indoor thing, it's really a mixed bag. I mean, I am hearing about some shows being crowded, but a lot not as crowded as they probably would have been in a normal sort of situation. And I'd rather just move that forward. Hopefully it can be all right by April. Theoretically it could be, and as long as we don't have to go through the whole mess more of bad variants and things. Knock on wood somewhere. It seems like so far so good, but we'll see. But it can be heart-wrenching. Actually, because I had a double whammy. It was almost within 10 days. The decision to move the town, the city festival affected me, and then also my huge big festival that I work on in San Francisco, Hardly Strictly Bluegrass. There was a decision made not to have that happen at all. Now we are going to be doing a big live stream outdoor thing. It's actually a very ambitious thing that we're going to be showing on Xfinity app and YouTube and Facebook and the Hardly Strictly Bluegrass website. That's on October 1, 2, and 3. There'll be a big live stream concert. So I still have work to do on that. And then, we're excited to present that, but it's not the same, because kind of what you were sort of getting at, we're putting together these events, we're putting together these great artists, but it's also about bringing people together. We're in the worst business that, you're trying to bring people together during a pandemic. That's one of the worst businesses you can possibly be in. But, we're going to, do the best we can, and then look forward to 2022. And, hopefully we'll be ready for that.
You're in Seattle, correct? If I remember correctly?
I am in Seattle at the moment. Yes, I do spend a lot of time in Massachusetts. I have a home in Lowell, just there a couple of weeks ago. But yeah, I'm the majority of the year I'm in Seattle.
Because I was just thinking about it as you're talking about indoor shows, and it's not just indoor, but I was, I believe at the Gorge out there, the Dave Matthews Band ran into COVID issues. They had to pull out all sorts of tricks to put together their big stand there a couple weeks ago. And then back here in Boston, just this weekend, it gives you an idea of where the indoor music scene is. That was an outdoor show, the Gorge, but the indoor music scene, just this weekend, we had literally, I don't know if you saw this being out in Seattle, but Dawes is playing at the Orpheum. People are showing up to the Orpheum to go to the show. Dawes ends up getting tested. A few members of the organization get tested positive for COVID. They cancel that show. Dawes apologizes. They're devastated. They're heartbroken. They actually suggest that fans run down the street and go see Jason Isbell at the Box Center indoors, which was rolling out this brand new technology where if you don't have a vaccine card or something, they test you, and within 20 minutes you get a test back and you can get cleared. It makes me think putting on indoor shows in a pandemic is still not easy at all. I think you're right.
Oh, yeah, it's very awkward. And, the whole, like the vaccine card thing is becoming more and more popular, nationwide. I'm talking to, I've been in some promoter meetings nationwide, in some, promoter support groups, and, everybody's starting to do that. If they're in a state that will allow that. See, that's the thing. Every state has a little bit of a different rules and also COVID situations and opinions on the whole thing. So the whole consistency, imagine being a touring band and you're dealing with something different in every state, in every city. It's just really awkward. And let's be honest, I'll be candid with you too. The elephant in the room on these vaccine cards, which in my opinion are the most counterfeitable thing on the planet. How do I know? It's not, how official is all of this? We're kind of putting some trust into it. And I'm sure 99.9% of people they're being that way, but is it? And then, sometimes do I have to see the card? Does it have to be, is it okay if it's a copy or just on your phone? I went to one show that asked for a vaccine card. As a matter of fact, it was in Boston. It was the Zulus at the Paradise. They were doing a reunion show. I've known those guys a long time, and I was looking forward to that show for a long, long time. It kept getting moved, and then they finally said, okay, we'll do it. And it was crowded, not packed, but they and I thought the Paradise did a decent job of like getting us all in. They showed show your ID, show the card, and and you had to have that in order to get in. And it seemed to work out okay. People were masked inside, but then again, you're pulling down your mask to drink a beer, and some people, okay, take a sip and throw it back on. A lot of people, no, it just stays down, whether you're on there and they're chatting, whatever. The inconsistency of all of it. And I'm not, blaming anybody for that. Is that right or wrong or whatever? I don't know what to think. For instance, I went to a Mariners Red Sox baseball game the other day. While I've been in Seattle a long time, I'm still totally a Boston Red Sox fan. So when they're in town, I go see them. And they had a mask mandate for even the outdoor baseball games. That's relatively new in Seattle for the baseball games. And, if you were walking around the concourse, you'd have the mask on. And your seat, you're supposed to have the mask on. But again, you eat a hot dog, you have a beer, whatever, it comes down. And what I was noticing was people are being pretty conscientious about it in the first, second, maybe even the third inning, but then fourth inning, fifth inning, I'm looking around in the eighth inning, and very few people have it. It's just like around their necks, and so I'm not saying that's right, wrong. I don't know, but just the inconsistency of it all makes it so awkward to know what to do as an event producer.
It puts bands in a weird spot too, because some of these bands have these, and these artists have these really, they want to protect their audience as well. And one of those guys I just mentioned, Jason Isbell, I've seen on MSNBC doing things about he's not going to play cities or venues that don't check for vaccinations. I mean, it's a big sticking point for him. I know a lot of artists feel that way. And that, it puts artists in a weird spot. I know that's not great for business, saying, whatever percentage of my audience cannot come to my show if they're not vaccinated.
Yeah. And, and then, there are some people who are, in the older demographic or have certain health issues where, I think we all knew there were going to be some breakthrough cases. We knew the efficacy of the vaccines wasn't 100%. It was very, 90 something, but there were going to be some people that can get it again. Fortunately, the vast majority, from my understanding, don't get sick for very long, but people are afraid on it. Again, it's different people have different comfort zones. Whether I'm walking in Lowell or Boston or Seattle, I see, a mix of, people outdoors walking down the sidewalks, and, a few have the mask on and a few don't. And so everybody has a different sort of comfort zone tolerance on what to do. The different artists have that as well. That was one thing that I was kind of dealing with a little bit with the Town and the City Fest is, I had one artist that wanted vax cards and everybody to be masked, and was pushing about having COVID tests for people out of state, which for me would not have been a practical thing I could have come through, because we're right near the New Hampshire border. We have a lot of kids who maybe live in Massachusetts who go to college, but they've got out-of-state ID. That I couldn't have done. But the other two, that artist wanted that. And then there was another one that didn't care about masks, but wanted vax cards in order to get in. And then I had two or three I could tell they were wondering about it. They then said, well, no, we're not saying you have to do it now, but just wondering what everybody's doing, or what am I doing? And I was like, I'll do what the artists want to do. It's, in a lot of ways, yeah, it's my show, but it's yours too. And, what do you want to do? And at that point, granted, it was in August, and they may have different feelings about it now, but, everybody was so uncertain. But that uncertainty, kind of back where you're saying, Drew, just, all the awkwardness of it, I was like, this is going to be a really tough experience for people. And I really want people to have as good of an experience all around, the patrons, the performers, everybody, as they can. And again, no guarantees it's going to be back to normal in April, but we're making a bet that it will be.
Don't you miss the days when artists just needed their certain bottle of wine and the certain meal? Those were the...
Oh my God. Yes. So easy, right? Yes. I know, my kingdom for that. Yeah. Oh, you want an extra bottle of wine? Sure. No masks or vaccines, great. Yeah, no pandemic, cool. Yeah, so yeah, it's just weird. I mean, I'm thankful that venues can operate now. And I'm sure they are as well. Although I know some are sort of looking in the proverbial mirror and saying to themselves, "Is this worth it?" Because they're not really able to pack it in. Well, granted, depending on what city or town they're in, some are packing it in, I guess. But as far packing it in, as far as packing the crowd. But yeah, I don't know. It's just, I don't see us having a lockdown again, fortunately. But business for, restaurants and things and other businesses is, kind of, gone up. But for event producers and venues, it's maybe not as tough as 12 months ago, but it's still being tough, and it will be for the coming months.
Let's circle back real quickly, because I do want to kind of end with that, because it is such you mentioned it right off the beginning, and now we're kind of back to it. But the idea, like I was looking at Fenway Park the other day when the Red Sox were back here, and Red Sox look like they're going to be a playoff team. They're a good ball club, getting late in the season. In my memory, pre-pandemic, and save your baseball jokes because I'm not buying it. It's still a great game. But in my memory, this time of year, if you get a good ball club making a playoff push, very rarely do you have, I don't care who's in town, the Orioles, very rarely can you just walk up to Fenway Park and get a face value ticket, and the place is still, I don't know, maybe 70% full, not a lot of open seats, let's put it that way. That is a different feeling for me, and that's even outdoors. And then you tell me that the indoor market for concerts is just downward as far as people showing up. Fear, I get it. People still fear being in crowds. When you talk to all your festival friends and producers and all that, is there a real fear right now for the industry, or is it still we just got to grind it out a little bit longer?
I think the bigger ones are still bullish about it, and it's fine. And yes, it's still awkward, and this whole Delta variant situation sucks, and the way it is. Again, I think it's different feelings in different parts of the country. Like I felt presenting things in Massachusetts, I had to kind of answer a little bit to the patrons and the general public and how they were seeing it. But like to me, in my comfort zone, I had a comfort zone going to that show at the Paradise. I saw Richard Thompson on an outdoor show at the Lowell Summer Concert Series, and because that was federal land, we all had to have masks on. Which I'm like, this is a drag. I don't like it, but okay, whatever. I'll be here to help. But I felt that. To me, I'm not that buggered about the numbers, just me personally, in those states. Now, if we were living in Louisiana or Idaho or some other places that we could point to where the COVID numbers are a lot more, I'd probably be saying a different tune. So it's so inconsistent, I think, industry-wide of like, how healthy is our business right now. I think everybody's very thankful and optimistic to some point because they can be open. They can present some shows. They're back in business. They got, hopefully, depending on what kind of business, where they either got one of those PPP loans, this Shuttered Venues Operators Grant helped a lot out big time. So all of that put everybody in a bit of comfort zone. So I'm not hearing anybody saying, our event world is going down the gutter again. But there's certainly concern, for sure. And like, how much longer do we have to go through this? And everybody's, very apprehensive of making any sort of predictions after what we're going through. But in a weird way, though, it's interesting, Drew. Like I feel, and this isn't just I think this is for all of us psychologically, having that few weeks, depending on which state you're in, but like, June, July, it was, we were like, okay, if you're vaccinated, you're okay, and go in and you can have shows and everything. And we were really kind of getting back to more normal there. They don't have to have a mask and you can sit anywhere. Great. And then they pull that back. I think it's almost upset us more than it was, while we were right in the middle of the pandemic. Like we were teased with this normalcy, and then it's taken back. And I think that's been very hard on everybody's psyche in a way. But I think we're, again, looking at the big picture, we're moving forward as best we can, hoping that, maybe by after the holidays, we, or even before, or whatever, in relatively short time, in a few weeks or months, we can get back to what we had in June, or even better, hopefully.
Right. I think that's very well said. I completely agree with you about the psyche thing. I think that's right on. That once people were putting those masks away for a little bit, they weren't coming back for a lot of people,
Right.
and the fight goes on. All right, we'll end with this one because the town and the city is going to happen in Lowell
Yes.
in the spring.
Yes.
It's
Yes,
happening.
April 8 and 9. And if anybody goes to the town and the city festival.com, they can get passes. I mean, everything's still on sale. Like I said, we just sort of pulled back our promotion a little bit, so we'll push it a little more. But there are 2-day passes available, 1-day pass available. So what that is, wristband, and it gives you carte blanche to go into all the different venues as long as the capacity allowable. But some people sometimes just want to pick up a ticket, just want to go to one show or 2 shows. So we do have individual show tickets available. It's not as good of a value. You get a little more bang for your buck, spending $50 and getting that 2-day pass, and you can kind of go to a whole mess of shows that way. But if you want one, that's another option too. So there's a ticket link on there, and you can pick and choose whatever kind of ticket you want for that.
And just a great lineup of like established artists who you might know, but also some great up and comers. It really is a good take.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, no, I'm psyched. I've been trying to have Robin Hitchcock be a part of it for a number of years, and he, was a well-known British singer-songwriter, rock and roller. He, brilliant music he makes, but in recent years he's lived in Nashville. So it's made it a lot easier to book him in the United States. He doesn't have to come all the way over the ocean as much. So he's around. I'm psyched to have him and Tanya. We've had her whole cohort, Kristen Hirsch, a number of years ago. So it's great to have her. And it's a nice mix. All of the venues are pretty intimate. The biggest venue we use is a 350 cap church. But a lot of it, we use like little galleries, like there's a little coffee shop that fits about 40 people, where there'll be this sort of storytelling event, to small pubs that fit about 150 people. It's really a nice mix to have like an intimate experience with a lot of different bands. There are some bars that we use, so there are some things that are 21 plus only, but having all age spaces is very important to me too. So for those under 21, we have a number of venues to accommodate. So the whole lineup is on the townandthecityfestival.com, and it's great to go for artists that you're familiar with. But to me, the best thing about a festival is discovery, and finding your new favorite band or singer or poet or whatever, because we have some poetry as well, and we have definitely some mix of some genres in there too. So to me, it's great to go where the wind takes you and discover some great performers.
Well said. I almost leave every festival with a new artist that I really am into and want to listen to. So I think that's a good point. I've noticed one thing through the pandemic. My wife raised a bunch of money she's running the Boston Marathon here in a couple weeks.
All right.
And one thing I noticed is that even through all these horrible times, businesses struggling, local businesses especially, people were just so giving. It like restored my faith in humanity. I was very impressed. Bars, restaurants, whatever, theaters, like some of the businesses struggling the most were like, oh sure, we'll donate tickets when we come back, and like excited about it. It was crazy. Does it help you guys, I wonder? I know you don't want to come on here and beg for money, but does it help people to get on there and buy tickets now? I'll do it.
Yeah.
For you. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. And anytime, but of course, cash flow is a big deal for those of us, particularly in festivals, but, in venues or anything for sure. So, why wait? Prices will go up a little later. I will say, we may have like some special, holiday deals, a little bit. We're still formulating what that might be, but, it all helps, for sure. And, we appreciate everybody's support, whenever you can buy tickets and or passes and to join us. I was very touched by a lot of people in the first 2 years who came to the festival, and while they knew about Lowell, and maybe they even came to Lowell for the Lowell Folk Festival, which is granddaddy of events in Lowell, and it's a big deal. But that's a big outdoor summer thing. This is mostly, although we are going to have some afternoon programming on the Saturday, which we hadn't done before, but we are going to be doing that to some extent. But it's mostly an evening thing in small venues, and you're kind of walking around the streets of downtown Lowell, which are very walkable. I mean, all the venues are within a 1 mile radius walking distance. And so I was very touched by a lot of people saying, wow, this is really great. I got to come to Lowell more often. This is, I didn't know about all these little places, and stuff, and the vibe and all. And that really warms my heart, because I mean, that's one of a bunch of reasons, but main reasons why I do this event is, yes, I mean, we want something for the locals, the people living in Lowell and the immediate surrounding area, but I want people to come to Lowell and see, what a great city it is, a great community is, enormous visual arts community there, but the music community there is strong and growing more and more over time. I mean, you have, I think a lot have been moving there because it's more affordable and just more stuff's happening. And there are, despite the fact that we saw so much business carnage all over the place because of the pandemic, so many businesses closing. I hadn't been to Lowell for a few months. I had to stay away, like, everybody. And I was so pleasantly to see. I mean, there were some closings, but most everybody I worked with is still in business. And as a matter of fact, there are some new businesses. I mean, there's this great new bookstore that just opened up in local Lala Books, and there's another venue. I think it's called Six. I don't think it's opened yet, but it's about to. And there's some, the restaurant venue, and in some other restaurants and things have opened up. I'm like, wow, didn't see that coming. And I can't say that's the case in every city, but it really, again, that energy that I've been feeling in Lowell, that's been growing over the last few years, which was one of a few inspirations that pushed me to start this in 2018, is very much there, and I'd say is poised to grow even further. So I encourage people to check out Lowell anytime you can, but I think you'd really like it during the Town and the City Festival in April, in the springtime. Weather's bound to be decent, and we hope you come and enjoy yourself.
We'll do it in the spring. Sounds good, Chris Porter. Hey, real quickly, what would you have done if you were Clive Davis on that comeback concert in New York City, and you had Bruce Springsteen, Paul Simon, all these people ready to go in the wings, and then weather interrupts the show? What do you do with all that talent back there?
Have a jam session and make the best of it, and all, have tequila shots for everybody to dull the pain. I mean, I don't know, man. It's just, yeah, that's a tough one. The books, I don't mean books, like volumes of books of the nightmares, the live event nightmares that we could all rock at. And obviously that's Clive's, and among other people. I mean, it's just, talk about heartbreaking on that. I felt for him. I mean, even like some, promoters or people or entities that maybe do things that I'm not that crazy about. But if I see that anybody in my line of work that goes through anything like that, oh, heart goes to them. So yeah, I mean, all those people are doing well in life. I mean, the performers, I mean, yeah, I'm disappointed for them, but they're doing all right. They'll survive. But hopefully they had a nice party for themselves or something, just to make up for it and say, let's do this again another time.
Gotta be some stories. Chris Porter, can't wait to get you back for the Springtime Festival. Gonna be fun in Lowell. There's a lot to like about Lowell.
There is. That's the word, and I stick by it.
All right, my man. The Town and the City Festival. Looking forward to it. We'll see you just a little bit later than usual, and should be fun in the spring. Thanks for joining us, man.
Sounds good, Drew. Thank you.